Domestic violence is an issue that's really quite prevalent and really something that very few people truly understand the extent of it and just how debilitating it is.
It was a new marriage, and I was a very new mom. The situation that I was in was one that probably looked quite shiny from the outside, and being told that I was the target of a form of abuse was this reframe that sort of changed everything for me.
A lot of times, the controlling party is kind of externally charming to the outside, so people think, hey, this guy's a great guy, so how can there be any issues going on in this household?
I was going for a restraining order, and my abuser stopped me in the court parking lot, telling me that the police wouldn't believe me. When I went for my second restraining order, one of the detectives asked me to sit down. He said, "We believe you." That specific police officer did more than I probably can ever explain to him.
My sister, Stacy, was my younger sister. She met this man who promised her the world. He abused her emotionally. He abused her financially. He took every sense of who she was away.
While I was on the phone with the client, the abuser came home and she said to me, "We have just a couple of seconds because it's 52 steps for them to get back to where I am." It hits you right in the gut. And like, we all live in these communities, and our clients are just like you and me.
Domestic Violence Services Network has been established to help clients not fall through the cracks and to provide services in a very coordinated and collaborative manner.
We all know that it's the number one officer safety issue for us.
When we knock on the door, we're not sure who's going to be answering on the other side.
Oftentimes, by the time we arrive, the struggle or argument is over. What happens to the victim? We want to make them feel safe before any of our officers leave the scene.
It frequently is physical violence, but there are also many other kinds of DV, including financial abuse, including emotional abuse, including psychological abuse.
Many communities think that they don't have domestic violence not in our backyards.
Even at a wonderful community like Concord and the surrounding towns, there is domestic violence issues. In fact, more than you might suspect.
1 in 4 women in their lifetime, some statistics say it's 1 in 3 women in their lifetime will be affected by domestic violence.
Children are there when a domestic violence situation is happening.
And I think so many of us live our lives thinking, well, that could never happen to me. I would never allow anybody to treat me that way.
You know, there's a lot of shame about staying in a relationship like that.
Once in a while, I will get a call from someone that's in dire straits. They fear for their lives.
The first stage of leaving a situation like this is really establishing safety and getting grounded.
Now, the reason why DVSN existed in the first place is because of the Concord and Acton police chiefs, way back in the mid-90s, were concerned about the ways in which their officers were handling domestic calls and not really feeling that things were helping these particular people who were living with this kind of situation, or the victims.
My first recollection of DVSN was when I was a young sergeant within the department and we were sent to a training. I didn't think there was really enough information to be shared over 40 hours about this problem. I was wrong. Each classroom was filled with police officers, dispatchers, supervisors, advocates, people from the community, and all together we shared ideas and talked about different situations. I learned a lot from that training.
So I think what's so unique about DVSN's training is that it's delivered by non-police officers.
DVSN trains the police and advocates together.
What I learned in the training was the different types of domestic violence there was, the subtle, insidious kind, and then of course the more violent kind. And it was enlightening and horrifying all at the same time.
All the other tools that we might not learn in a typical police environment, how to be compassionate, how to provide those wraparound services, how to look for those key indicators of domestic violence. And they come out better officers, more empathetic officers from the training they received.
911, this line's recorded. What's the address of your emergency?
And I've learned a lot about what officers go through. This is one of the most dangerous things police can be involved in.
DVSN has done very well, is partner with lots of different organizations, from law enforcement to the DA's office to local hospitals.
This partnership is so valuable and so essential to the work that we do every day. The training that they provide my staff helps us to talk with patients in a way that's compassionate and empathic about really sensitive topics. The staff member said, it was one of our nurses, it gave me the words to use with the patient.
In my first contact with DVSN, I was nervous. Once I reached out and they offered a support group, they helped educate me.
The purpose of these support groups is to begin to create community among survivors.
Folks want to tell their story.
There's a sense of, oh my gosh, I'm not alone in this, and oh my gosh, I'm not crazy.
They really helped me share my story in a safe environment.
They were also able to work with the courthouse to provide a space for pro bono attorneys to come and be a lawyer for the day for survivors who are seeking restraining orders. Just by having somebody at the courthouse next to you who knows where to go, where to sit, who to talk to help somebody be a little bit more calm in an extraordinarily stressful situation. DVSN is always evolving. We are responding to what people need.
I've come to understand about the interaction with DVSN in particular is that you're speaking to people that have trauma-informed responses and education and care in the way that they approach their work.
We see so many people who are struggling with trauma, and we collaborate on cases that come to the attention of the police when there's both a domestic violence issue and a mental health or a substance abuse issue.
And the kind of advice and kind of information that DVSN gives to our clients helps them make decisions for themselves.
I think it's gone past that relationship of just us handing information over to an advocate group, washing our hands and walking away from it. It's really become a partnership that stays and grows every day.
Officers take these calls at night, and sometimes they go through them and they worry about the victim in some of those cases. And that's the bridge that's covered through DVSN. We are able to let DVSN know about the call that we were on, give them a copy of the report, and they are able to follow up with those victims confidentially. And if it needs to come back to us to help as well, we will definitely help, but we know once they get to DVSN, they're in good hands.
I think what we have with DVSN are those wraparound services that are so important, so that when we leave, we know that the case will be referred to DVSN and they'll be able to go back and provide those necessary wraparound services. They're just an amazing group, and it's a unique group because they're made up of mostly volunteers.
These volunteers that take time out of their day and night, their evenings, their weekends, to volunteer to help a stranger. And we need that. We need that more than ever.
Oh, as an advocate for DVSN, I find more and more that this is just vital work in our community. The feedback I get from our DVSN clients is that they are just so relieved to have us to talk to. It's helpful for us to be able to say, you know, we work with the police department, they asked us to check in with you, but also to assure them nothing you say to us is going to get back to somebody at the police department, unless you want it to.
Changing the way that we talk about these things and shining a light on the different elements and facets of abuse is vital.
We have got to have these conversations. What is a healthy relationship? What is acceptable? What is domestic violence?
DVSN helps me to find my voice again and to move forward in my healing process. And now I want to share my story and I want to help others.
It's very important for that client, that victim on the other end of the phone, or somebody who's calling us or even used to come into the office, that they see that there's so many people out there that really care about you. There is hope out there. You're not alone.
They really helped me to build my confidence back up. And I realized and accepted that I'm a survivor.